There's a fascinating story in the journalism world today that's not getting a lot of play outside the Jewish press. It involves Lesley Stahl, the very well known longtime correspondent and host at 60 Minutes. Stahl is being accused of being sympathetic to Hamas terrorists because of her interview with several Israeli hostages who are now back home free after enduring nearly 500 days in Hamas captivity. One of those hostages was an American Israeli. His name is Keith Siegel. He lives in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. He and his wife were abducted. He spent nearly 500 days in Hamas captivity, in which he says he witnessed Hamas terrorists raping female hostages. Now, Siegel, during the interview, said that he had been starved by Hamas. He ate hardly anything while in captivity. He was subjected to mental, physical torture. He really endured a living hell for nearly 500 days in the Hamas tunnels under Gaza. Stahl, during her interview, asked Siegel whether his Hamas captors had starved him on purpose or because they didn't have enough food of their own to give him. That question and others like it that seem to indicate a anti-Israel bias on Stahl's part have caused a lot of consternation on social media and led to a lot of criticism of Stahl's interviewing style and perceived bias among pro-Israel voices and others, as well as many in the Israeli press. In addition to talking to Siegel, Stahl interviewed Tal Shalom as well as Yarden Bibas. May know Yarden Bibas as the man whose wife and kids were kidnapped and murdered by Hamas while they were being held hostage in Gaza. The little redheaded boy who's really become a symbol of the depravity of Hamas in this conflict. Siegel told Stahl that after his wife Aviva was released from Hamas custody, they were extremely cruel and violent toward him. He told Stahl that they were beating him and starving him. And Stahl, in response, said, "Do you think they starved you because, or they just didn't have any food?" Siegel shot right back that his torturers did have enough food. In fact, he said, "No, I think they starved me, and they would often eat in front of me and not offer me food." In other words, they were using food deprivation as a form of psychological torture. Now, Siegel and his wife were kidnapped from a kibbutz near the Gaza border with Israel during Hamas's terror attack on October 7, 2023, in which thousands of members of the terrorist group invaded Israel by land, air, and sea, including by paragliders, and murdered some 1,200 people in Israel, mostly Israeli civilians, and also took several hundred people hostage, nearly 60 of whom are still in tunnels under Gaza, and several of whom are American, including Idan Alexander. Stahl is being criticized for her perceived anti-Israel view on this matter. As a longtime journalist who's conducted a lot of interviews during my career, I can tell you that you want to approach an interview like this with someone who's gone through unspeakable trauma with the utmost sensitivity. And I think a lot of the criticism here is stemming from the fact that Stahl is being perceived as not having that sensitivity, perhaps because Siegel is an Israeli. And there is believed to be a major bias among mainstream news outlets against Israel in favor of the Hamas narrative.